Excuse me. Hello, I'm Lucy. I'm the early years dietitian. I am here with you today to talk to you about fussy eating and neurodiversity. Why am I here talking to you about that? Well, I'm a paediatric dietitian. I've been working as a dietitian for over a decade now. In the NHS, out of the NHS, privately, in public health, in industry, and I have been working in paediatrics for coming up for a decade actually. I work with a lot of children with eating challenges, and under that umbrella, I often work with a lot of children with autism, with ADHD. I myself am diagnosed ADHD, and we have likely a lot of neurodiversity in my family. I am not getting another diagnosis, though it has been implied that I should. I'm 43 years old. I don't feel like I need to. But what I'm trying to explain is I work with a lot of families that are dealing with neurodiversity, and it is something that is very relative to me. It's part of my makeup. And it's a very big topic area. I'm probably not going to cover very much today, but there's a couple of main things that I really want to talk about. And it's something that I think a lot of parents really benefit from knowing when I talk to them. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that when we are thinking about children who find eating difficult, these are often children that parents will explain as a fussy eater or avoidant eater, or a child that doesn't eat well. What I often try and get parents to understand is that just because some of us eat differently to what we think is the norm, it doesn't mean it is necessarily a problem, okay? If it is really interfering with life, it is stopping a child growing, they're finding it very upsetting, it is always something it is worth us looking into. But when we look into it, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're looking to change the child's eating. What we might be doing is changing the environment, the way that the food is offered, to make sure that food causes less anxiety to that child. But it doesn't necessarily mean we are expecting them to eat like their neurotypical peers. And that is really important because for two reasons. Often parents feel very isolated, very alone. Parents will often come to me feeling like they're failing their child and that they're doing them a disservice. And actually, that isn't necessarily the case. If you are offering your child nuggets and chips or pizza because that's all they will eat, actually making sure that they are fed, they are happy, they don't have anxiety is a massive piece of the puzzle. So, like I say, we don't necessarily expect children to all eat the same. That said, like I say, I do a lot of work with children, and we generally can always find a happy ground where we can help a child to build their confidence, to try new things, to have more variety, to be able to be part of the eating environment at home without it causing anxiety, okay? The second thing I want to talk about is the fact that there is often this attitude that because a child is neurodivergent, that there's nothing that we can do. We don't need to intervene. And yes, I know I've already said that. However, a very important piece of the puzzle that is often missed is that just because a child is neurodivergent, it doesn't mean that's the only reason for their eating challenges. So what we know is most children are born with this internal drive, this internal motivation to eat. And over the years, lots of things happen that potentially mean they don't eat as well as they used to, or they do not have a relationship with food that they want to have. Some of those things include previous illness, they include generalized anxiety, it might have food allergies, it might be constipation. There are things like life events. All of these things will shape the relationship that children have with food. Now, one of those pieces of the puzzle is neurodiversity. And within that, we often have things like sensory issues, very strong preferences, the temperament, which may mean that children are very routine led. They need things to be a very certain and particular way. That's one piece of the puzzle. All the other things, like I say, like the anxiety, the life events, the other temperament, the kind of personality characteristics, will also be feeding into the way that the child eats. Excuse the pun. So we have one thing that potentially is not movable, and we don't want to change that about a child, but what we can do is help them to feel more relaxed and happy and comfortable around food by working with everything about them and all of their feeding history and all of their medical history and just life in general, to work with them as an individual to help them feel more comfortable about food. So the reason I'm saying that is, rather than sitting there and thinking, you know what, there's nothing I can do, this is just the way things are, my child just eats like this, what I want you to do is think, yes, I cannot change the fact that my child has ADHD and sensory, either hyper or hyposensitivity problems, but there are so many things that we can do to make the mealtime experience more acceptable for them from a sensory point of view, or helping them to get their seating right, to lower that pressure, all of those things that we do when we work with any child that has an eating challenge, and make it applicable to your child and their neurodiversity. Hopefully that helps. If you want any more information about any of that, you can contact me through my Instagram page at The Early Years Dietitian, via my website www.theearlyyearsdietitian.co.uk, or you can comment below. Have a fabulous day.